all cat cable infrastructure is now rated for 1G. Like 10 years ago, think about the absolute absurdity of designing an entire system for 1 gig. When are we going to need that? Yada, yada, yada. Now you can't design without it. So I kind of see a video going that way as well.
It's 4K.
What does 4K mean?
An AV company rung the bell on Wall Street. AVWeek says there's resilience in a difficult economic environment. And is AV ready for 4K everywhere? All that and more. Next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 781, recorded Friday, August 7th, 2026. 2468K. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and stories in the AV and the IT world. Spin-offs on the stock market. We have an acquisition, and AVWeek shows resilience among staff cuts. Let's get into it. First up, Bose Professional has acquired Fulcrum Acoustics, a Massachusetts loudspeaker manufacturer. Fulcrum will keep operating under its own brand. That means no changes to its products, support, or manufacturing. Fulcrum builds and designs its systems in Whitensville, Massachusetts. 3 engineers founded the company in 2008. Its catalog now runs to roughly 130 products, including coaxial designs and patented cardioid technologies. Now, Fulcrum speakers show up in demanding venues worldwide. Recent installs include Houston's NRG Stadium and the Rose Bowl. This is Bose Professional's first acquisition since it became independent in 2023. Bose Professional CEO John Mayer says the goal is to preserve what makes Fulcrum distinctive. He adds that Bose Professional's global reach can help accelerate Fulcrum's growth. Bose Professional plans to transition into the 802 Labs brand starting in February of 2027. Fulcrum will stay a separate brand throughout that shift. Next up, ADI Global Distribution is now a standalone public company. ADI completed its spinoff from Resideo Technologies this week. Its stock began trading on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker ADIG. Resideo shareholders received 1 share of ADI stock for every 2 shares of Resideo they held. ADI, of course, distributes security, residential, AV, and fire and life safety products across North America. ADI CEO Bob Arnes calls the spinoff a pivotal milestone for the company. He says ADI now has a clear strategic path as an independent distributor. Turning to the numbers, AVWeek's latest Pro AV Business Index shows a mixed picture. The AV Sales Index climbed from 53.1 in May to 60.4 in June. Any reading above 50 signals growth. Outside of North America, 37% of respondents reported a sales increase in June. Now that's up sharply from 19% in May. Live events and data center work are driving much of that gain. But the AV Employment Index dropped 2 points to 51.4 in June. Some firms report budget constraints, hiring freezes, or unfilled positions. Tariff pressures and on displays, cameras, and computing hardware remains the industry's biggest drag. Some organizations are delaying purchases or scaling back project scope as a result. Broader labor data adds context. The U.S. added just 57,000 non-farm jobs in June. That's well below expectations and down from a revised 129,000 in May. Also this week, LG Display unveiled a new 2-layer OLED panel design. The panel costs less to produce than current 3- and 4-layer models. LG says the new design still improves color coverage and brightness. According to the company, it covers 82.5% of the BT 2020 color gamut. A new blue emissive material replaced the older yellow-green layer design. Brightness does dip slightly at higher color temperatures, LG notes. Industry sources say the move could actually help LG defend its position in premium displays. It may also help LG compete in the mid-range TV and monitor markets. Those markets still lean heavily on LCD and mini LED technology. Finally, a career resource for the industry just got easier to access on the go. AV recruitment specialist Denise Hughes has released an audiobook version of her book, It's called Your Dream Job in Audiovisual. Don't just fall into it. Hughes runs the AV recruitment firm Whoop Jobs. The book covers career paths across integrators, manufacturers, consultant, and end users. It also offers guidance on resumes, interviews, and company culture. Hughes built the career guide for graduates, career changers, apprentices, and veterans entering AV. The audiobook format targets professionals who spend time on the road or on job sites. At your AV news for the week, stick around. Our roundtable will discuss 4K and expanding the experience of AV. That conversation is next. This is AV Week. All right, welcome back. With us to discuss a couple more stories we've got. First and foremost, brand new TCOM person, Rebecca Sullins. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, Tim. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Congratulations to you. That's good. They're good to have you. Also with us is Jessica Sanders. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Tim. Always good to see you.
To you as well. And my brother from another mother who turned me on to these lovely Robert Graham shirts, Joe Carroll. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Albright. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
And if you're not watching the video, Joel's Robert Graham shirt is more colorful than mine, but I do technically still have on a Robert Graham shirt because I knew he was coming on today. So, first story comes to us from our friends over at Rave Pubs. Roland says the professional AV market now treats 4K as a quote-unquote baseline expectation rather than a premium tier. I'm going to take exception to that in a second. With corporate, higher education, house of worship, and live events teams designing workflows around it from the start. Now, the company points to its V1 4K switcher, of course, released in April 2026 as evidence of that shift. Roland frames the product as a bridge between existing HD infrastructure and full 4K production. I'll give them that part. Aimed at organizations that often rely on occasional or volunteer operators rather than dedicated technical staff. We're not going to get into the Roland piece. I'm going to get into 4K. Rebecca, have you, as a designer, as a consultant, moved you and your clients into a 4K first workflow?
That's a bit of a trick question, Tim.
That's why I asked it.
You know I like to be nuanced in my responses. So the way I see it, it's almost hard. It's almost more difficult to find peripherals for HD video anymore, right? Like go out and try to buy a TV that's not 4K anymore, especially in the professional market. So on one hand, we're sort of always designing for 4K just because it is getting harder to not find it. The same way, you know, all cat cable infrastructure is now rated for 1G. You know, like 10 years ago, think about the absolute absurdity of designing an entire system for 1 gig. When are we going to need that? Yada, yada, yada. Now you can't design without it. So I kind of see a video going that way as well. Yeah, some of the things are only going to support HD because that's what a lot of people still need and whatever. But most of the peripherals are already, they're just being built for 4K. You can't find things that aren't. And inherently, the workflow is just going to move that way as the products get cheaper, as the cabling gets cheaper, as everything's going to get to 4K eventually. All
right, Joel, from your perspective, whether that is from a manufacturing standpoint or from the volunteer operators, where does 4K lay in this whole, you know, infrastructure and training? Are we moving 4K? Is everybody, because according to this article, everybody from house of worship all the way through education is moving to 4K. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I look at it from kind of a different perspective. Yes, I see that happening, but I don't ever walk out of a room and somebody go, man, that was the best 4K video experience I've ever had. But what 4K has done for them in part of this workflow, and Roland actually mentioned it in their actual article, and there's a camera I used to use back in the day for this same thing. It's allowed us to do a lot more things. So I can't remember the camera thing was called a Mevo I had. I could have a 1 camera setup and have multiple shots because it was a 4K chip. And I could have a close up of all the people individually. I could have a wide, shot of all the people talking and then maybe get 1080p out of it. But there's a lot more benefits above and beyond just say the resolution and just the video quality. You have a bigger pixel map to be able to work with. So yeah, I think we're there in a multitude of ways. But again, it's not just the experience. Most people don't even know that it's 4K when they walk in. They don't even know what that means when they walk out. They That was a seamless, great experience. The camera did everything it needed to, and it just so happened to initially be 4K camera. So yeah, I think we're there. We should have been there, I think, a long time ago. But I absolutely think we're there today.
One of the, you raise a good point, the fact that especially in UC, let's say the last 5 years, and I can poke to a couple of different ones. Poly is certainly one that comes off the top of my head. Jabra is another one. Logitech is another one where the base, right, like you said, the canvas is 4K, but what people see on the far end and locally is not, because they're cutting that canvas up to dumb it down almost to 1080p, so it can do things like digital zoom and panning and facial tracking and stuff like that. I'm going to be interested to see if as we move into the 4K content and displays, which this is one of Jessica's areas of expertise, if those folks are going to have to jump now to 8 or 16K as a canvas to keep that same functionality. Right.
Yeah, I was actually, so I was going to jump in a little bit on that too, because as we get, as technology becomes more ubiquitous in everybody's life, right? You come to expect things like image stabilization and this digital zoom and everything that we do. And so then all of a sudden, if everybody is expecting 4K resolution, then you're correct. That canvas has to get bigger to accommodate, because that's how it does that, right? And to Joel's point, yeah, nobody walks out of a boardroom and says, "Oh, that digital zoom was the best resolution I've ever," nobody cares. However, if you were to be able to magically take somebody, a CEO today, and put him in a video conferencing room from 15 years ago, he would know that it's better today, right? Like, if it's really poor quality, they are going to notice that. And so as our expectations gradually increase with better technology, you have to maintain that.
I'm going to jump in here. Okay. First off, I'm mad at everyone for stealing my buzzword, which is what we use at LED canvas, because we don't look at things as just a 16:9 box or a 55 or a 65-inch flat screen. Those have been 4K for years. I mean, I think that's pretty standard. Even if you're trying to get a 1080 display, you're a couple $100 less, if not maybe right around the same price point. So it doesn't make much difference. The world I live in LED, as I call the big world, it's all about scale. It's about canvas, and it's making sure you have enough information to make sure it's not pixelated, or if you have to do things like your digital zoom, that it's going to look correctly. And that's why 4K as a workflow, and I use that word more than anything else, it's a workflow process, has to be on board with what you're trying to do. I mean, LED, we get, 12K, 16K, 8K all the time. Our all-in-ones are starting to base from that 2K resolution to 4K, even at like 108, 132 inches. And so we have a physics problem more than anything else at that point, which we've seen LED fix itself over the last couple of years with inventing new technologies such as MIP and micro LED solutions, so they can go down to 0.6 mil, 0.4 theoretically, but we can live in that space, and that cost point is coming way, way down. So you then see 4K from an LED perspective at a much smaller scale, or much smaller sizing, and a price point that's actually affordable. So projects just don't get, wishful thinking. They actually become extremely practical from that standpoint. But 4K has been around for years, and it's been the standard for, I would say, a year and a half, 2 years, especially with, cable manufacturers and everything else, like really jumping in, and some of the new protocols that are coming out, that have been really established in broadcast from 2110. Just really cool to see that whole workflow actually be successful. So yes, 4K is that standard now.
And it's funny.
Infrastructure needs to be there to support all of that, right?
Yep.
Right? Stop laughing, Tim. But that's the big thing.
I'm laughing because everybody's jumping in at the same time.
You said you don't want to talk. We're just trying to make your dreams come true.
Exactly. No talking.
Go.
I laugh.
Go ahead.
I laugh hysterically because I remember like having this conversation like 10 years ago, and it was like, is 4K, or it might have been when like Blu-ray came out, right? And everybody all of a sudden everybody was talking about 4K and whatever. And the problem then was there's just not content for all of this. So don't invest your money in a TV that's going to be $10,000 more, right? Because that gap was not coverable with the content that was out there. But now, again, with stabilization, with digital zoom, with all of these things that require those extra pixels to function properly, I find it just absolutely hilarious. And now we're like, yeah, everything has to be 4K.
Well, and it adds flexibility to everything we're doing, whether it be a production environment, a meeting environment, a classroom environment. And to Tim's point, also Jessica, we're going to have to push into 8K and others to be able to provide just that much more flexibility. It probably will start in the Canvas side and work its way back. But from the camera application, or even if I want to share 2 pieces of content directly from my laptop, the higher the resolution of my laptop being able to output, I can break it down into 2 totally separate things being up on that display. So it becomes more and more important that the infrastructure is there to be able to get it everywhere we need it to go.
Like it's hard to design not for 4K now. Like it's you have to go out of your way almost to find cabling that doesn't support that or whatever. Like it's getting harder to do. And we're going to see those expectations just gradually increase. We'll be having this conversation about 32K at some point in the next 5 years, you know?
But at the same point, 2K is still fine, especially when you get into like visual acuity. So, you know, when you look at a room, say House of Worship, and they're using 2.5 mil pixel pitch, you're actually 16 foot by 9 foot actual for your aspect ratio and your sizing, which works perfect for that. Now, obviously, you know, like you guys are saying, like you can downscale things and make it work into your workflow very easy, but you're still capturing a 4K. And so I'd argue that provides a richer, you know, easier, you know, flexibility, like what you're saying. So I completely look at it as being backwards compatible and forward compatible from that standpoint as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, because I actually, like, when Tim originally sent out the articles for this week, you know, it was talking about 12K and this kind of jumps into the next one, forgive me, but it's talking about this is being shown in 12K. And I actually like did the math for a normal person's visual acuity in arc minutes and how big that screen would have to be for you to be able to see 12K. And it's just like, yeah, you're not going to be able, there comes a point where there's a diminishing return, right? As with every technology and higher bandwidth, whatever. But, you know, to your point, it's to build in that flexibility and future proofing. You need to account for some growth.
Too, right? Nobody wants to read a spreadsheet in 4K. I mean, can you imagine being 10 feet back trying to read it, right? So but putting that there allows maybe 2 spreadsheets to go up that you could see side by side, and then you could zoom in on that one specific area.
Because that sounds like a fun meeting.
Yeah. Then you get into workflow practicality and
Well, Tim, I mean, that's our normal meetings, right?
Go ahead, Jessica. Sorry.
No, I just was saying workflow practicality, to be able to share resources a lot easier. I mean, all those things make that environment 10 times more user-friendly than just an old flat panel on the wall. So like, then we're creating more immersive, creative spaces, and we're making that environment, you know, very, very user-friendly, and just providing that really good experience, which is what we're looking to do as AV designers, manufacturers, and integrators.
I think you said a word that I say often, and, you know, Tim, we're leading a bit on the next thing, but experience really is key. So what we're able to do today compared to what we were able to do just a few years ago, resolution has played a huge part in that. We would not have been able to do that, let's call it in the normal spaces of today, without these higher resolutions.
That's a nice segue into our next story. From our friends at AV Magazine, Cosm will debut, hang on for it, wait for it, Stephen King's It as its first, as Rebecca cheers
I want to go
for joy.
see it so bad.
I do too. I totally want to go see this. As its first horror title in shared reality. Now, the shared reality thing is it's immersive cinema format. It is premiering August 28th in Los Angeles, Dallas, Atlanta, Rebecca, and Joel, and Dallas for Jessica, with Detroit debut to follow. The experience runs on Cosm's 87-foot diameter, 12K LED domes, paired with full dome production technology and enhanced spatial audio. It is the 4th title in Cosm's experiential slate, following The Matrix, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, all produced in partnership with Warner Brothers. Mr. Carroll, 9 years ago, Infocom changed its name from Infocom to Avixa, and ever since then, at least every Infocom, they've been talking about experience. They've been talking about experiences all over the place. We have done on this program a number of stories. I want to say almost the entire month of July. Everything from the projection mapping on the Smithsonian, projection mapping on the Washington Monument, the MEVIX portable projection mappers, all sorts of experiences. How do we keep the experience side of AV going? How do we keep the excitement? How do we keep this in front and center for not only to clients and end users, but also to people that we're trying to recruit going, AV's freaking cool. Look what we can do.
Yeah, it's a really good point, man. Like Cosm, I got to experience firsthand, and I liked it so much I had to go 2 nights in a row. Granted, I didn't sit in the dome. We went and we sat in another area about it. But what was killer about it was watching the World Cup. And they let everybody walk into the dome area. And what was unique is as the World Cup's going on, where you are sitting in the dome didn't matter because the camera view would totally change. So I'm sitting behind the goal or sitting behind the corner, or there's a ref up in the corner and they bring up a different piece of video. But then 2 nights later, it was Harry Potter. And Harry Potter's now playing it. I didn't see Harry Potter. I went to go see another World Cup game because why not? But what was really unique to me in this type of scenario, and I think this is one of the best examples, this wasn't designed around a piece of content. If we look at some of the Da Vinci things and all these other things that have happened, those rooms are purpose driven. Nothing wrong with them. They're fabulous. We've done them. They're awesome, but they're purpose driven just for that thing. Here, this is an experiential center that one day it's a sports arena. The next day it's a movie theater. Another day, like an immersive movie theater, like you're in it, right? Another day, Cirque du Soleil, they play there, certain events as well. I mean, it's a different concept. And I think getting people to understand this is AV, they look at it and they go, wow. Our next step is how can we take some of the things that we're learning in these large experience centers? How can we bring them to our everyday life? Going and having a board meeting and just sitting and staring at a display, which is what we need to do. But can we learn some of these things and make those also experiential? So it's not just a classroom, not just a board meeting, whatever the case may be. How can we have that room adapt to what the content is that's playing right at that moment? And I think that's what they're starting to do here. And I think AV can learn a lot from it. What are they learning that we can adopt to?
Well, Jessica, I actually want to bring you on this because as Rebecca talked about, this is the 12K, right? Goes back to our first story. What can we bring from this? What can we take from this and start leveraging, whether that's the 12K resolution or it's the domed LED, into experiences at higher education, at House of Worship, at other places where the vast majority of consumers of AV are going to go? Because I just mentioned there's 4 cities in the States, right? That's it. But, you know, there are college and universities and churches in every single, and synagogues and mosques in every single city. How can we take that really cool technology and bring it to the masses?
Yeah, and let me say a couple things before we really jump into that. I just want to say the whole Cosm business case is done very, very different than what we've seen in the past. They own their entire chain, and they've brought on strategic partners to be able to provide video distribution from labels, you know, from Warner Brothers and Sony with their investment, and they actually make their own panels as well. So the fact that also, like you were saying, Joel, that you can see, you know, World Cup at one time and then come back the next day and see something else is their model. And their model is so strong. The parent company, you know, was founded building planetariums and things like that. So they have a great understanding what this. Now they've been able to bring on technology partners to make this happen. And the cost of ownership, you know, it's, you know, $80 to $90 million, you know, and I say that only, but compared to some of the larger buildings that we see in Vegas,
it's not a sphere, right? It's not a sphere. Yeah.
Somebody was going to bring it up.
No, I'm sorry. I got to. $2.3 billion for that monstrosity. And we love it. I love the sphere, but it's a very wonky model from that standpoint. You're very limited. And I think you're right, Tim. As this technology evolves, you know, I think we could be saying that these dome structures and everything is the 4K from 5 years ago. Like we were wishing to get into that world. And I think we're going to see some adaptation and we're going to see some new premises on how we do things. even with Cosmo, how they designed their own camera systems to be able to launch into these live venues, to be able to show their content a specific way with this 360 formatting and working with NVIDIA for processing. It's just, we're going to see workflow like that serious make its way into live events and to say, house of worship and the likes, theatrical releases, things like that. But it's about me. It's about the recurring revenue and like being able to create titles and really be able to make that work and get to 50 locations by 2030, which is what they're planned. So yes, we're going to see, LED change from some elements of this. You're going to see some adaptation from that process. You're going to see that whole, these are matte GOB type product as well. So being able to have lighting control just right, we're going to learn a lot from this company on how we need to create more and more of that complete, experiential space. And I think that's the beautiful thing about a Cosm versus anything else.
Yeah, no, and we're seeing that in other technologies as well. Literally right now, think about the Odyssey that just came out. That is the first movie that was ever filmed 100% for IMAX, right? And that's because Christopher Nolan was like, well, forget it. I'm just going to invent a whole new camera system, because that was always the problem. So as these technologies, and again, 20 years ago, there was 4 movies in IMAX. Now they're actually inventing new technologies specifically for these screens. And we're going to see more of that. Again, 20 years ago, it was unfathomable that, any of us would have quality audio producing equipment in our house or whatever, you know what I mean? With the Cosmos, with the immersive, people are going to start changing how they create content. And in order to do that, the technology is going to drift to the peripherals, which I think is a really cool thing to watch.
One thing I will encourage anyone if they're going to ISE, or if they're not and they plan to, and this is not a commercial for ISE, but if you go the weekend before, because every year Mike Blackman and the team at ISE do a projection mapping on Casa Batlló. And once that is over, you can go in the basement, take the tour of Casa Batlló first and foremost. Joel can attest me, because he and I went together with our wives. But anyhow,
sure.
We left them behind, but they were technically there. They do. But in the first floor of that, there is quite literally the most immersive LED experience I think I've ever had. It is floor, ceiling, all 4 walls of direct view LED, and they replay the projection mapping from the previous years. So it is a remarkable immersive experience. So yeah, go check that out, or Cosm, or any other that you have in your backyard. So absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Rebecca Sullins, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Rebecca Sullins. I am the only one, thankfully. You can get me at my new company's email, because I did just start a new job, rebecca.sullins@tcom.com. Yes, and I am now with TCOM as a associate principal consultant concentrating in AV design. So
Yay. We like TCOM. All right. Mr. Carroll, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you?
Easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn, or if you just look in general, The Joel Carroll is my website, my LinkedIn handle, all of that. And then just follow me everywhere I end up randomly showing up, which seems to be a lot of places as of late. So
that's fair. I will attest to that as well.
It is fair. Yes.
Jessica Sanders, thank you so much again for joining us. We got to have Jessica on at the Infocom special, and she was nice enough to come back. So thank you so much. How do people connect with you?
Yeah, it's easy. Just go to LinkedIn. Got plenty of articles. I try to take things a little bit different from a business perspective on the industry, and then talking about, how we're growing, things of that nature. But also from an LED, manufacturing perspective for the last, 12 plus years. So, and I'm going to plug myself shamelessly right here. I'm currently on the market looking for my next adventure. So if you are a manufacturer or a company looking to hire someone of my skill set, please let me know.
Absolutely. Go connect with her on LinkedIn. Absolutely. And Mitchell will put a link to all y'all's LinkedIn here. So thank you all so much. My name is Tim Albright. Do not follow me anywhere, but go by the website, AVNation.tv. It's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. A couple of programming / travel notes. I am heading to IBC the 11th through the 14th of September. I'll be covering that, and that coverage has actually already started. So you can check that out. If you're not familiar with IBC, IBC is the broadcast show for Europe. So in the States, we've got NAB, it happens in April. Over in Europe, they've got IBC, that happens in September. I am also doing the keynote at Almo's E4 events in Dallas, September 15th, and Boston, October 15th. So you can check that out at almoe4experience.com. But go by the website, please, avnation.tv. It's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.